Okay, good morning, friends. Shalom Aleichem. We're continuing in Mishnah Berura, Daf Hashavua, Siman Kuf Chaf Ches. We are up to, in middle of Seif Lamed Daled. The Mechaber said like this: a katan who did not bring 2 hairs cannot duchan by himself at all, but with other kohanim he could duchan to learn, to be trained. But someone who did bring 2 hairs, he could duchan by himself occasionally, but not steadily, until he's yismale zekanai. Then, once it's yismale zekanai, then he could duchan regularly. Now, anyone who reached the age that he would typically be yismale zekanai, even if he personally was not nismale zekanai, we call him that he reached that threshold. Okay. Let's start again from Seif Katan Kuf Chaf Daled. Umiyu. This din, that a son who brought 2 hairs kaduchin only ba'akroi, is gam zehu mitam kavod hatzibur. This is also because of kavod hatzibur. Meaning, the earlier din, that a katan shloi hevi shtei sarais, cannot duchin at all by himself. It's not a din d'oraisa. It's mishum kavod hatzibur. Likewise, it's not kavod hatzibur to have somebody regularly who is lo yismale zekanai. She'en kvodim shevarchutam bekeva uviyichidi ish lo yismale dayan zekanai. We saw that yesterday. Ba'akroi uv'medina senu she'en noisin kapayim el b'yamtiv. Nowadays, that we only duchan on Yom Tov. Mutar lisa kapav b'chol regal afilu b'fnei atzmai kedei lachzuke nafshi b'kahani to loy mikri ze el akroi. Says the Chafetz Chaim in the name of the Magen Avraham, the Taz and Shar Achronim, that nowadays that we only duchan on Yom Tov, so a kata, somebody who's loy nismali zekanoi would be allowed to duchan every Yom Tov. And that's not called b'kvios, it's called ba'akroi. But it seems like the reason why we're somewhat lenient is to give the person opportunity to establish himself as a kohen. V'ayin la'el. Look earlier in Siman Nun Gimel Sif Ches. V'ayin la'el kolaymar desham avar dafilu haya zakayin muad karina bein nismal zakanim humi ben yud cheshan v'amala. Even someone who has a little beard, we call it nismale zekanai if he is 18. V'kaydem lachein, before that, ba'inen milui zakein mamish. Before 18, you need a full-fledged truck driver beard. After 18, even if you have a few alfalfa sprouts sprouting from your face, that would be good enough. Okay. Sif Lamed Hey. This is one of the most interesting halachos and most contemporary halachos in the Shulchan Aruch. Kohen shaharag es hanefesh, a kohen who murdered someone, afilu b'shoigeg, even unknowingly, even b'shoigeg, lo yisa es kapav, even inadvertently, even if he killed someone inadvertently, he cannot duchin. Afilu asa tshuva, even if he did tshuva, Hagav yesh shoimrim dim asa tshuva noisei kapav. Some say that if he did tshuva, he could duchin. V'yesh lahakel al balei tshuva shaloi linol deles b'fneim. We need to be lenient to balei tshuva, that if they did do tshuva, they murdered someone, they did tshuva, we don't want to lock the door. V'hachi nahag, that is a minhag. Now, again, the Mechaber is talking about even someone who did it b'shoigeg cannot duchin, even if they did tshuva. When the Ramah says that if he is also tshuva noisei kapav, there is such a yesh oimrim, that's even b'mezid. And before we explain the rest of the Ramah, the contemporary shaila is if a soldier in the Israeli army that killed the enemy, can he duchin or not? Let's say he's a kohen, he killed someone in battle, could he duchin or not? So the Mechaber says, even someone who killed b'shoigeg, even if he did tshuva, lo yiseh kapav. Now he wouldn't have to do tshuva, but according to Mechaber, l'chayra, we don't know. Because we don't know, is it talking about saharag es Yisrael or harag oivdei kochavim mazalois. The Ramah says if he did tshuva, he could be noisei kapav. And then the Ramah says yesh lo hakal abali tshuva. The minhag to be mekel, though, is only if somebody killed b'shoigeg. But if somebody killed b'mezid, we don't necessarily have this minhag to be mekel. Bottom line is, Rav Soloveitchik ruled that a kohen who is a soldier who killed in the army cannot duchen anymore, can no longer duchen. Rabbi Ovadia Yosef wrote a lengthy tshuva that a kohen who killed can definitely duchen. One of the sources he brings is that the reason David HaMelech was not allowed to build the Beis HaMikdash was not really because he killed, right? That would seem to indicate David HaMelech killed a Mechemes Mitzvah also. So, and he wasn't allowed to build the Beis HaMikdash. Is that analogous to this? Let's see the Mishnah Berura.
How could one mitzvah make you patur from another mitzvah? I mean, if it's a mitzvah...
That's not the lamdas. You'll see, that's not the lamdas is, your hands are soiled. How could you...
How is it possible to think that you do a mitzvah and make...
Look, Shahar Agas HaNefesh, T'chsiv, Uvefarizchem, Kapechem, Alim Einai Mikem. When you stretch forth your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Yedechem damim aleo. Your hands are stained with blood. So you did a good thing. You may have done a good thing, but you have blood on your hands. The hands that took a life cannot be used to instill blessing into others. Now the Prisha says this pasuk is davka b'hoireg nefesh mi Yisrael. The Pri Megadim brings, no, even hoireg akom eino noses kapav. What about so now the question, what about Bezdin? You know, there's certain people, moiridin v'loy malin. Pri Megadim says noisei kapav. What about a kohen who embarrassed someone publicly? So he's over on Ritzicha. The Shevet HaLevi says he could still duchen. It's not Ritzicha biyadayim. Rav Moshe, I didn't know this, Rav Moshe has a tshuva, that even if someone who fought in the American army and killed someone in battle would be able to duchen, because he's an oinus. He's an oinus, so if he's an oinus, it's not attributed to him. Furthermore, Rav Moshe says, he's mechuyev to go to the army. Dina de machusa dina. You hear this? Rav Moshe holds that if you live in a country, you're mechuyev to go to the army, because of dina de machusa dina. So if you live in America and they draft you in the army, you're mechuyev to go. It's a mitzvah to go. And if you kill someone, now it happens. So what about in Israel? You know, we just learned last night the Ran in Nadarim, the famous Ran in Nadarim, Daf Chav Ches, says Dina de Machusa Dina does not apply in the land of Israel. The reason for Dina de Machusa Dina is because the government owns the land. But the Ran says that doesn't apply in Israel. However, most Rishonim disagree. The Rashbam in Baba Basra, the Chumash Hadeshen holds that Dina de Machusa Dina does apply even in Eretz Yisrael. Okay. In any event, the Mishnah Berura continues, V'afilu b'shoigeg, v'mansu l'aroig, if they force you to kill, noisei es kappa, v'yafagav de b'tzicha kamlan de harg v'yavar, oinus is not an excuse, you have to give up your life. If you did not give up your life, and therefore Rav Moshe applies it to someone fighting in the army. Afilu asa tshuva, even if you did tshuva, kam deyazu, the opinion of the Mechaber. The Mechaber's opinion is rooted in Bracha Daf Lamed Beis. What do you mean? The guy did tshuva, nothing stands in the way of tshuva. Mikamakim ein kategar nasa sanegar. There's a special lumdus over here. It's not that we hold anything against you, it's just how could you use the hands that took a life? They're going to prosecute. To be a dayim elu sh'arges hanefesh ein roy lisa es kapav af al pisha asa tshuva. What if somebody pushed a pregnant woman and she miscarried? Dachaf isha hara v'hipila noise eskapav de'en chayav misa alu barin. But the Rama brings an opinion. If asa tshuva noise kapav, if you did do tshuva, you could duchan hainu afilu kisha'avar b'mezid, even if you did it intentionally. V'hachi nahog v'yesh eze achroinim shemachmirin al kapanim b'mezid. There are some achroinim that are machmir b'mezid. V'ayim b'bir halacha. So let's see the bir halacha. Afilu asa tshuva. The mechaber, the bir halacha says the mechaber over here was soisem, and he didn't bring the yesh cholkin like he brings in Sif Lamed Zayin, that a mumar, we're going to see in Sif Lamed Zayin, a mumar cannot duchin. Some say if he did tshuva, he could duchin. So why didn't the mechaber bring an opinion over here that someone who killed can't duchin, and if he does tshuva, he could? But why by a mumar does the mechaber bring the lenient opinion and not here? It's mashma that he holds that we're more machmer by Ritzicha. Why? In kategar nasa sanegar. That's how the Rabbi and the Rabbi Yehuda understand the mechaber. The Oilas Tamid and the Gra are mashma. They hold the mechaber relies that in Sif Lamed Zayin he brings a yesh shoymrim that if you do tshuva you could dochin, and that applies to here. Le'inyan dina, how do we paskin? The Rama paskins lahakel, and he says that's the minhag. And the Rama's shita is we're makel even if someone kills b'mezid. And it's not worse than somebody who served avodah zara, where even if you served b'mezid, you could duchin if you do tshuva. However, some achrein in the Pri Chadash and the Eliyah Rabbah are machmer if somebody killed b'mezid. And then the Ritva and Makos he brings from the Balei Atoisis, lahachmer b'ritzicha b'chol gavnei, l'maisa tzarchin ledina. If the guy goes up, ein lahoy ridai. Now, what's the svara of shalayinol deles b'fneihem? You know, in the case we discussed, if somebody killed in the army, so Rav Moshe already gave a heter, even if it's not fighting for Eretz Yisrael. But, you know, if somebody is fighting for Eretz Yisrael, and if it would be considered a melchemes mitzvah, l'chayra, the halacha should be that you'd be allowed to dochin. L'mashal, you know, a moyel is allowed to duchin. We don't say yadayim damim mileyo. So you say over there, you didn't take a life. And here we have the sort of en kategar nasa sanegar. So it's, Rabbi Vadi says it's contingent on how you learn the Psukim and the Nevi'im, why David HaMelech was not allowed to build the Beis HaMikdash. The Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz understands that David was not allowed to build the Beis HaMikdash because he engaged in completely Milchemes Rishus, because when the Chachamim wanted money to go build to go be Mefarnes Klal Yisrael, David HaMelech says if they need Parnasa, let them go to war. So that was not considered a justified war. Furthermore, the Malbim understands that the narrative with David HaMelech completely differently. The Malbim says that there was nothing at all wrong with David killing the enemy. That was not the reason why he was not allowed to build the Beis HaMikdash. The reason he wasn't allowed to build the Beis HaMikdash was because in order to build the Beis HaMikdash, it has to be Lishma. Va'asu li mikdash, li lishmi. And Hashem promised David that once the Beis HaMikdash is built, he'll have respite from his enemies. So, because David would not be able to build the Beis HaMikdash lishma, because it would give him respite from the enemy, so Hashem was saying, your hands are full of blood, meaning, since in your lifetime you had to engage in a lot of war, and building the Beis HaMikdash would build you respite, you can't build the Beis HaMikdash because you can't do it lishma. But Shlomo HaMelech, who was promised peace, so he was able to build the Beis HaMikdash. He didn't need the Beis HaMikdash to gain shalom. In any event, halacha l'maisa, it seems that a soldier who kills in battle would be allowed to duchan. We'll pick it up tomorrow in Sif Lamed Vav. Have a good day, everyone. Shkayach.